Hey everybody, welcome back to the Teaching Tax Flow podcast. Today, episode 110, we're going to look at tax planning for influencers and content creators. And the guest that's going to join us here momentarily may look familiar to some of you. He does have well over 3 million followers just on TikTok alone. So be sure to check this one out. But before we do that, as always, let's take a brief moment and thank our episode sponsor.
This podcast is sponsored by The Mortgage Shop. Are you looking to qualify for an investment credit loan without jumping through hoops? That's easy. They have loans with LTV up to 89.99%. Exploring their products and discovering how they can work for you is simple. Just visit mortgage.shop or call 865-325-2566 and tell them TTF sent you.
As promised, we keep bringing some of the best guests we can find in the industry, and really important to this one, we got a really, really good topic that I know people are interested in. And if you're not, you should be, because our guest that my co-host here, Chris Pacchiro, is going to introduce here shortly. I think it's up to about 3.4, almost 3.5 million followers just on TikTok. And why bring up TikTok specifically? So today, obviously, we're going to talk about tax planning. So basically taxes for content creators, your influencers. And this is going to be really interesting, right? Because I would almost wager a bet that most people that are listening to this, whether you know it or not, you probably follow somebody on social media who's producing the content out there in the modern age here. And being a marketing guy, I appreciate it because it's not as easy as it looks. But with that comes some challenges when it comes to taxes. So Chris, welcome back to your own show, man. How you doing today?
I am amazing. I'm so excited about our guest today. I know I say that whenever we have a guest, but I truly am excited. John, I'm gonna before I introduce him, Johnny T had a big head for a while. I'm gonna explain why, and he's not gonna feel so good after this. I didn't
take it.
Okay, so John, last year in 2024, Johnny T and I went to Taxposium, an ATP Taxposium, well over 1,000 attendees. We sat down at a table for lunch, and these mature age ladies were sitting next to us, and they're like, we were talking to them, and we had just done a presentation for like 300-400 people. It was awesome. And we sat down, and I did the presentation, but we worked on it together. And the ladies were like talking about, well, what do you do? Where do you live? And somehow this podcast came up, and they're like, oh, we follow Teaching Tax Flow podcast. I'm like, really? And they're like, yeah. They're like, who's the other guy that is on the podcast? I'm like, oh, John Chapolsky. They're like, yeah. Where is he? Oh, he's in the bathroom. He's coming. He's going to sit next week. Wow, we never met anyone famous before. And so, John, unfortunately, you're not the most famous person on this podcast anymore. I'm so sorry.
I'll take it. And who you're about to introduce too. I mean, I'm sure he can give us some great examples, but I've never been on Good Morning America. I'm not that popular. So, Chris, what is a waste of any time, man? Let's hear this guy here.
I am so happy we are joined by Duke Alexander Moore. I had the honor of meeting him at the Intuit Better Together event back in 2023 in the NYC, right next to Times Square. And the reason I'm bringing up John getting recognized by those mature age ladies for the first time in my life, whenever you do an Intuit event, they treat you pretty well. And we had a really nice dinner the night before the event, and where I met Duke. We actually sat next to each other and talked a ton. But I don't know if Duke, you remember this, but when we got to the restaurant, some random people was like, recognized me, were like, are you Duke Alexander? Yeah. Oh man, it's nice to meet you. I'm like, dang. I've never had an accountant, tax professional get recognized in public by a non-tax professional. Like, there's some people in our industry that are kind of, in our world, influencers and speakers that we know, but never an outside person recognizing an account. So it's an honor to have you. Welcome.
Thank you, brother.
The Teaching Tax Flow podcast.
Thank you, John and Chris, for the dope intro. I'm so excited to be here. And I don't know, I'm pumped. It's Friday too, so we picked a really good day to do this. So I'm excited.
Oh, absolutely. And we are excited to have you. You did an amazing job emceeing that event. But I know that one of the things, like, my niche is real estate. And one of the things I truly believe in our private practices, you have to eat your own cooking. Now, I know you have a lot of cool videos in your kitchen where you're pretending to cook stuff, But
Yeah.
you eat your own cooking as an influencer, as a content creator yourself. That's why I think you connect so well with that industry, because you connect on that level, not just a tax professional. So can you tell us about your journey of how you got to the point of being not only a amazing tax professional, but also a creator?
Yeah. So really it started out with, I think the first time I've held a camera and it did well, I was recording a school fight. I was like the cameraman for the school fight, man. Wait, Duke, let me get that video. Oh my gosh, I got so much fame for that. It was like a popular school fight. Oh, that was so cool. Outside of that, I remember it was my freshman year in high school, and I joined theater. I'm like, okay, this is fun. This is theater. This is awesome. Because before that, in the summer of middle school, transitioning to high school, I would make videos on YouTube. I actually taught myself how to play the piano, so I would like upload videos on YouTube. Just for the fun of it, I would make fun music videos. I'm like, oh, cool. I kind of like this. So my freshman year of high school, I joined theater, and it was cool. It was fun. I really enjoyed it. Now the classmate there, she's like, "Hey, you should go audition at this event." It was just like some like pop up in Dallas. So I did that, and they're like, "Hey, you're good. We like you. Come on aboard. We want you to do some more stuff." Long story short, I I was trained to become a model, an actor. It's called AMTC at the time, and a model, an actor. And I was in this event, at this national event. I placed like top 40 as like a model and actor at the age of like 14. I had to like do my own monologue, like everything. So it was cool. So I got really cool opportunities out of that. Whereas for a couple of years, I was a primary model for JCPenney for the teenage boys section. So you would walk around the mall, like, oh my gosh, there's dudes, or there's his legs. Those are my legs, fam. I was on the back of like game board boxes. I did something with Frito Lay. I did some really cool stuff. Really fun stuff. But at that time, I'm getting paid as a 1099. I'm not aware of none of this. It's my first like job as well. So I'm getting paid 1099. The money's good. It's like minimum wage at that's $187 an hour, $187.50 an hour. Sometimes it's $750 an hour. Anyways, I got the 1099 at the end of the year. My parents have never seen this. They've always worked W-2 jobs. And so, they drove me down to H&R Block, and they kind of taught me. I actually prepared my own return at that time. They taught me how to do this, expenses, and write-offs. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. This is cool. Like, I like this. This is dope. I've always been interested in math as well. That's always been the subject that I excelled in. So I'm like, I really wanted to get in accounting tax like growing up. So that's what I pursued. And I pursued that. And I'm like, okay, I want to be a CPA because I want to do taxes. Like, I looked up what's a hard profession. They said taxes are something that's very difficult to understand. I'm like, I'll do that. I'll let that occupy my time. Long story short, realize you don't have to be a CPA to do taxes. I mean, we'll find that out one way or another. So I ended up dropping out of college, and I was already like thousands of dollars in debt. So I saved myself there. I went and got my EA instead, because at that time as well, I was trying to apply for different like firms. Can't get into them because I don't have the college education, blah blah blah. So I was like, whatever, let me start my own firm. So I did that, and I was getting clients just from the Blitz Pro Advisor, a little here and there. That's how I kind of got my experience with small business owners. And then I was kind of like making videos on TikTok, like here and there. And then like I was on TikTok one day and I saw this one video, a guy about making a video about taxes. I'm like, and they had like over 1 million views or 1 million likes. I can't remember which one it was. But I'm like, this guy's not even a tax professional. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And it's something simple as like, this is how you fill out a W-2. I'm like, that's crazy. You get 1 million views for doing that? I'm like, I do this for real. You just did it on Google. So I was like, let me try that. So I hopped into that. Creating content was very difficult in the beginning because like anything's new is challenging. I would sweat. It would take me 2 hours for like 30 seconds. It's very challenging. Like it was, oh my gosh, this is the most nerve-wracking thing. I'm like, should I take a shot before I do a video? Like, oh my God, like it was like, don't do that. But after a couple months, I overcame that fear. It was easier to make videos, and I started to learn like things like, okay, let's make it engaging by adding comedy to it as well. So education plus comedy, because talking about tax itself can be fairly boring. And it kind of just took off from there. And, it really helped me because like before that, times were rough. Like got addicted. I was living pretty much homeless. I slept on the streets a couple times or in and out of friends' places and it's so forth. So the really help of that really helped me as well because I actually had to file bankruptcy too. And so, well, got all that taken care of and that helped. And then it just came to a point where the social media was growing so fast. It's like I was forced to niche down. So it's like I'm not choosing to work with creators. Creators are coming to me. And when you have like 100 leads a day and it's only one of you, you gotta like, okay, who's the ones I want to work with? And so that's how creators kind of came to it. Like I'm a creator that speaks creator language. And this was like probably in 2019, no one was really like working with creators or understood it. And so, yeah, I just chose that. But we still work with small business owners or freelancers as well. Yeah, that's kind of the journey.
And dude, just looking through your TikTok, it's so funny because for the longest time, I remember my wife's like we'll call her a champion scroller, right? She's I mean, that's like her vacation is scrolling through reels. And I came across your page a while ago. I think it was right after you met Chris. And I'm like, all right, let's check this out. How funny could these be? I probably busted out laughing. And chances are I was at a coffee shop. And I think one of the funniest thing, and what's wild too, right? Is and this is a giant compliment to you, is that there is so much content out there. Now there's a lot, right? On just business management, taxes, all this stuff. And some of it, again, me not being a tax guy. I mean, I'm a marketing guy. So I look at this and I'm like, even I know that's BS. Like you're not you, but some of this other stuff. I'm like, what are you guys like? You're setting people up for chaos here. Like you're getting them excited. But you explain things really, really well. Not to mention that you actually got President Biden and the press secretary to do the damn Dougie.
Oh yeah,
That's a whole nother story, man.
Oh yeah,
That's a whole nother thing.
I got the beat down for doing that. But
But I appreciate your follow up on that. But that's I seen your follow up, which is good. It was good.
I was very hesitant to post that. I'm like, should I be something? No, let's do it. Let's stick strong, 10 toes down.
Yeah, man. And the cool thing too, I mean, like literally you've taken, on that point, you've taken something that's about as not sexy as it can possibly get, right? So taxes, historically. Like you think pocket protectors and tax professionals. And now you've added that sense of comedy, but it's credibility and comedy to it. And then as you mentioned, like you're really making that connection with content creators because I mean, a lot of these individuals, right? They may have kind of just fallen into it. And all of a sudden they're like, wow, I just went from being a barista to a true content creator making 6-7 figures a year. Like, that's wild. And now I got this thing called taxes. So a question for you actually on that is, just on those types of individuals, and we call it content creators, small business owners, whichever we want to say it. How many of those come to you like, oh crap, I didn't realize that I would actually have a tax problem, right? And then like knowing that industry, knowing those individuals, like how do you start those conversations? Like, do you coach them more along, or how does that relationship work? Just out of curiosity.
Interesting. Okay, so cool. When it was just me. It was a lot of like coaching and like teaching and explaining. I mean, explaining in a sense to make sure they understand. I think that's the one key point because these creators, they want to understand. They actually choose, a majority of them want to understand and want to know. And so it had to become across in a way, how do I easily communicate it to them as well? So that's been a journey itself. And it's been a lot of like, okay, this didn't work, this worked, this worked, this didn't work, this didn't work, this didn't work. Okay, this works. So now it's at a point where now I, delegated that initial process when they initially come to us to 2 other team members. So now they know how to communicate. And if they want something in depth, we hop on a call. Oh, I don't have it. But when that call comes out, it's iPad and pencil time. And so drawings, I will actually draw out like stick figures like, hey, this is you. This is you as a sole proprietorship. And then this is you as an S corp. You see this little piggy bank, that's your payroll. So it's coming down to that. And really what it comes down to education in this time is a value because education is overwhelming and it's everywhere. What's right, what's wrong. And so that's really what it comes down to is education, coaching, and it's just it's them having an understanding is ultimately what it is.
I think that's a great point. A lot of creators and influencers actually do want to be financially literate. And that's a big problem we have, just that we don't have a lot of financial literacy in our education system, which is a whole nother topic, whole nother show. And hats off to you you really not only grow your client base, but you've grown in a nice sized team in Duke Tax. And we'll put all that information out there. We're going to have some more information we're going to talk about in a little bit. What are so when you're talking to people that do have a following, let's call them an influencer or content creator, at what point do they actually feel like they're able to monetize that? And is it kind of like a big ball that starts rolling where it might seem like a little bit of, and it's just an exponential explosion of their income? Or how, what's your typical client journey looking like?
Oh yeah, it's fine. So different creators are at different stages. So you could have someone with 20,000 followers and doing much more than someone that has 3 million or 10 million followers. So it goes to the question of monetization. How are they monetizing? Typically, our creators that have something on the side, whether it's a small business. There's I'm gonna get to the number one because I know the number one, but the creators that have some type of small business that they're selling on the side, whether it's a products are really good because you can demonstrate it and get really creative with it. We have one client that sells a planner, and she's doing millions a year selling a planner. She just does it. She just makes content of her drawn in the planner with her creative writing or cool writing, and she does well. So when it comes down, you followers don't equal dollars. I like that. When followers don't equal dollars, it doesn't. You can't say like that person has a lot, that person doesn't. It really comes down to the creator, one who's a team behind them, and do they have that entrepreneur mindset? And so that's a big chunk. Another big chunk is going to be brand deals. That is that should always be viewed as additional income. We never want to rely on that because it's unreliable. In other words, we have to wait for people to come to us or reach out to us, or that's something you negotiate. You're not in too much control of it. Whereas if you have a product, you're in complete control of it. Like, I want to sell this, I want to do that. Brand deals, you have to wait or have someone reach out. That's another sector. And then a really good, the fastest sector, the most lucrative, the most change-changing, the one that just blows everyone's mind. It's always going to be our fanfics or an OnlyFans. It's going to be that type of sector. And that's when it comes to that, there's a big difference with these type of creators as well. When we talk about our OnlyFans and fanfics. Fanfics is a friendly version of OnlyFans. It's a non-nude version. So there's a whole different way of monetizing that because it's not just subscriptions. A lot of people think it's subscriptions, like, oh, getting people to subscribe. But over there, how you truly monetize it is having the idea that the individual has an online girlfriend. And so most of that money, how that's monetized, is actually made through messages, like messaging and messages and so forth. And it's not subscription. It's not like the pitches. It's the idea that that individual has an online girlfriend. And once that creator or that girl has that idea, that's how that's monetized. So I would say those are like the main ones. Just having a small business, whether it's a product or service that you have on the side, whether you're doing brand deals, it's another good service. And then like the people who are just doing like the OF and online girlfriend things is crazy.
And it's a cool thing for those type of people. Obviously they might not want to go down to the local tax professional and kind of they want to work with someone like you that understands the nuances of that, the confidentiality, you're in some ways you might have an alter ego, or you might have, you have, even if you're not on one of those platforms, you're just a content creator or influencer that millions of people watch every day. That might not be how you are on a day-to-day basis. And you want someone that can work with you and understand you, that doesn't get into, like, I remember that, I love sports, and the first when I started having some professional athlete clients, like, yeah, when I was super young, I was kind of like, oh gosh, that's so and so. And then it was quick where I was like, all they want is just ignore that, and then it works out much better. So
you gotta treat them like a human. And yeah, it's funny to say that. Chris and John, it's like we have a couple of like girls that have come to us, or even creators that are like, do you guys work with us? Like, I keep getting turned away. It's such a bad stigma. The creator industry and the adult entertainment industry is such a nasty, bad stigma. So some of the lead forms that we get is like, please tell me you guys work with, this type of industry. I need help. I don't know what to do. And they truly need help. And they are actually getting turned away from other firms because either I don't know, maybe there's fear. Where does fear come? Fear comes from unknown. And so those creators of those women and men in the adult entertainment industry are actually getting turned away from other firms.
Mm-hmm. And in growing your practice, so let me ask this, Gordon. What are some of the tips you can give someone that not just the creator or influencer, but as a small business owner, as far as as they grow? Just some. I know you said you originally were on the QB or QuickBooks platform as a pro advisor platform, from a bookkeeping standpoint. And one other thing I really like about how you operate is you've got very transparent pricing. That's something that I think we use in our practice. I think that's extremely important because that immediately gives trust to your client. And so if you're listening to this, even if you're not in this in that industry, you should be you want to be working with someone that is very transparent with their prices. So yeah, what's been the secret to your success of growing your practice and working with and being able to help those type people?
I like that. Yeah, price transparency is so important. You'll hear some people say like, "Don't put the prices on there. Have them fill out the form." And feel like, "No, bro, here you go." And so I would say a lot of of my success was actually counterintuitive. It comes from failures because I believe the best teacher and coach is failing, and there's no true thing as failure. It's only feedback. So we always have to take it as feedback. So it's just like listening to the people. What do you feel is naturally right, as well as a business owner, and then or a tax professional running a firm, and then doing things that are going to make you uncomfortable. You got to put yourself in those uncomfortable situations if you want to change. If you're not failing, you're not changing, you're not growing. You're just sitting there chilling. So that's going to be really important. And I think the most important thing is anyone that's listening to this or watching this, like, I want some type of change and you do not know where to go. Your next step is to get inspired, meaning you have to look at someone that is doing what you're doing or that you're interested in doing and almost mimic them to the point where it's like you're mimicking them to understand it. Once you understand, once you mimic, once you've been inspired by that person, you then start to add your little twist and your little twang to it. And that's how you start to build your brand and your company. And that's where you start to get growth. So a lot of the things like me, I mimicked a lot of things. Apple mimics. A lot of people do that when you're first starting out. That is okay. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. I tried to do that. That will hurt you so bad. Do what's already doing right. It's okay to mimic. It's okay to copy. I call it inspiration. Once you have been comfortable and inspired by that person enough, start branching out, adding your own twists and things. So I would believe that would be the biggest transformation for anyone that's listening to this that wants to just have change and success. Get inspired somebody, copy what they do, then do your own thing.
Yeah, a couple of things. I mean, I've learned that I even have this written on my whiteboard, bitter or better. And when something goes your way, does not go your way, you could you either get bitter about it or you can get better. And just constantly, John gets sick of hearing me say it's a fail forward. There's no, you learn more from losing and winning. Even one of my children was not happy with one of their grades just last night. And I sat with my wife and I sat down with that child. I'm not going to say which one. And it was like, hey, be bitter or because the child got emotional and what, take this and always, measure backward. Hey, that's where you were at. Let's go forward. You touched on something that I think a lot of people, not just in the industry that you serve, but listeners of this could really would love to hear your thoughts on it, of kind of some of the secrets of how to build a brand. What are some few tips on doing that?
Oh yeah. Okay. So with that, when building a brand, it doesn't have to be rushed. Fun fact, we didn't have a logo for like the longest time. I think we like I just like copied the same thing I use on social media. I think a brand is built over time. It's not something you have to like figure out the colors like right away. Just take your time with it. And a brand is more than just colors and a logo. It's how people view your practice and your business. What feeling do they get? Do the people in your staff and your team members, do they understand that as well? Do they see the vision? That's one of the most difficult things to do, as well as communicating a vision, because we have visionaries, right? And we have implementers in our practices, and a lot of our CEOs are visionaries. But communicating that visionaries is a whole different ball game. So when you're building your brand and your practice, understand it's a slow process. Have your core values. I believe that is super, super important. And just keep in mind, what do you want people to feel? For us, we are in the business of actually creating an experience. So when I when I talk to the team, I'm like, yeah, we do taxes. Yeah, we do bookkeeping, accounting, but we are in the business of actually creating an experience, like, making this a best experience, because if we don't do that, we are a commodity. And what I mean by commodity is like, we are just, oh, let's just price compare. Oh, let's just go with the cheaper one. Like, who wouldn't want to do that? Like, if I had to buy a bottle of water, a Dasani bottle of water, and over here is $3, and over here is $2, I'm gonna go to the $2 one. But over here is $3, and I don't know. They take your pictures and they like throw bubbles on you, and I don't know. They just make it cool. They make it a fun experience. It smells good. You may want to go over there. So that's when it comes down to, the brand is also an experience. And then, Chris, speaking on like, the process of it, kind of what we were just talking about, is I think a really important concept to know is the gap in the game. That's a really good book. If you guys haven't read that, I would say, check it out. It's called The Gap in the Game. And essentially what it comes down to, because a lot of our entrepreneurs, you're going to get stuck in this mindset. And the gap is like the difference. So you always want to look at where you started at, and then look at where you're at right now. For example, I'll give you a good example that happened to me this past week. Past month. I lost 100,000 followers on social media because, this video I made, dancing with the president. I don't know, people are going crazy. I lost 100,000 followers. I'm like, oh my god, a lot of people be like, dang, that sucks. Oh my gosh, what do I do? But what did that do? Take me from 3.5 to 3.4. I lost. But if I don't focus on that gain that I made where I started at, that's what it's all about. I started at 0. So even if I go from 3.5 to 3.4, I am still up, baby, because I am focused on what I have gained overall. I started at 0. I'm still at 3.4. So a lot of you small business owners or entrepreneurs or tax professionals listen to this as well. That's a principle that you can always apply, whether it's in your practice, whether it's like the question of building your brand. Folks, look at where you started. Look at where you're at right now. Just because you have a setback, at least you're not where you're at like a year ago. It's progress, not perfection, and we've just got to keep moving on.
So, Duke, this is why I love you so much. I'm going to, for those of you watching on YouTube, you're going to see this. This is a book I've just finished.
Oh, you just finished it. Oh, that's
just finished it, and that's what I told our child. Always measure backwards. Yeah, that's what I talk about, right? And we can get in the gap, and then we can emit that gap to other people in our life. So you got to live in that gain. And I just started turning my phone off an hour before I went to bed. Let's put it airplane mode. All those things that they teach. And there was another book, 10X is easier than 2X. I don't know if you read that one also. That was the precursor to The Gap and the Gain. The Gap and the Gain is that was phenomenal. And I don't love reading books. I listen to them. So I had a road trip recently, and I'm like, I knocked this book out. And this book, The Gap and the Gain, was so good that I was bummed that I got home with an hour left in the book. And I went for a walk to listen to the rest of it. So John's laughing because I called him and I said, dude, you got to listen to this book.
It's good. It's life.
And I think I'm about 20 minutes into it as of the other day, and it's pretty good. And I have the
That's
attention span of a gerbil sometimes, where it's
it's
a good one.
not my thing. And like, there's certain books that I really like. Like that's a good one. Start with why, but I have to check out Emily. Yeah, I agree.
It's a good one. It's a good and Duke, I'm looking back. I've taken some notes since Chris mentioned your name way back. I think this was probably the best quote that sums up exactly what you've done. At least being a creator, but then also, in being a tax professional. It's being an EA. I want to say it might be Business Insider or Bloomberg, one of the interviews or articles they wrote in you. I think we were quoted saying taxes aren't fun, so I put an entertaining spin on it. I
Yeah.
think that sums up exactly what you did. But then also back to what, I spoke on a little bit earlier, and I think you guys agree, is that there's so much content out there that it's not even that some of it's completely untrue, right? It's that it's not telling the whole story. And when
Right.
you don't tell the whole story, it might as well be untrue. I mean, there's some of it. So you do a great job of that, and keeping people's attention, right? That's one of the toughest things. And I think the industry, both the content creator industry side of things, but then also in the tax industry, I mean, that's a huge problem, right? I mean, or I shouldn't say a problem, I say a hurdle, which I think you've done a pretty darn successful job of taking on, man. So congrats with that.
Yeah. And I would agree, like one of the reasons we've created Teaching Tax Flow and focused on tax planning and strategy is that, Duke, just like what you said, I say it all the time, tax compliance, tax preparation is a commodity. You might go to 10 different tax professionals and they might do things 10 different ways, and hopefully you have about the same result. But it's the experience, it's the planning and strategy and that makes the difference. That's something that if you're listening to this and not, if you're in any situation, you could be an employee somewhere, you could be a small business owner, a rental property owner, understanding the importance of working with people that look forward, as far as from a planning and perspective, instead of being reactive. We say all the time that, one of two things is going to happen. If you do no tax planning, the IRS is going to pick your tax. If you do tax planning, you pick your tax. So you get the choice. What is it going to be? So can you tell us about, I know we mentioned before the show, you've got some opportunities. So if you're listening to this, if you're a small business owner, a creator, an influencer, and you've been just looking for that firm, that tax firm that aligns and understands your industry, you've probably just listened to them. You probably know who Duke is already, but you might not already. What could they do and we'll put all of your information in the show notes, but what should they be looking for in a tax professional? And what are some of the things that if they haven't found that they should consider working with you and your crew?
Yeah. So a good thing to look for someone in a tax professional is, do they have experience in your field? That's going to be super, super, super important, especially if the more money you make. The more money you make, the more important that it's going to be. For example, for someone who, I don't know, like someone gets hurt, they can go to a minute clinic or a care now, something very local. If they have something wrong with their heart, they can go to a cardiologist, right? That's a heart doctor. That's someone that specializes in the heart. They're going to cost more, but they're going to get the job done. But what if someone has a heart problem in their child? Well, then they go to a pediatric cardiologist. So it's specializing in really finding that. And I would say, look for that specialist if your income is high. They're going to cost a little bit more, but they're going to save you. So that's the first stage. If your income is high, look for a tax professional that can do that, because they're going to have great planning. They have experience. They have repetition with other people in your field. Now, if you're in that middle ground, you're just getting started, we'll find someone who's very creative. Like that, they're fun, they can explain things, they make things very educational, and they're transparent as well. That's going to be super important to have a team that backs them as well. What is their flow? Communication is the most important thing. That's the chief complaint for a lot of tax professionals and CPA firms today. It's communication, the lack thereof, and as well as getting billed for it hourly. Now, just look for that. The communication is strong, and typically you can find that out as soon as you submit a form submission. Now, if you're like, oh, okay, yeah, Duke, I like you guys. If you're interested in working with the name of my firm is called Duke Tax. And we have something cool going on right now. If you're just looking for tax preparation, you can reserve your spot before the end of the year. It'll save you $150. You can go to workwithduke.com to check that out. It helps us, it helps you because we kind of know what to gear for the season. That's why we kind of offer that. And then we also have memberships. So our memberships are like people who just, I don't want to deal with nothing. You guys handle it. We have 3 tiers there, and we can find the right one for you.
Awesome. That is,
So you guys make it pretty easy for the
pre-board in the flight, right? You want to pre-board that baby. Check in the day before.
Easy. Yes. Just, we will handle everything. The only thing you got to do is show up, do your, the onboarding part typically is the hardest part for our memberships. Once you're onboarded, we have your organizing, your banking, we'll do your quarterly taxes, your consulting. We'll talk to you every now and then about some tax planning and so forth. So yeah, we have 2 sectors. Clients, those are just people who visit us yearly. We're just tax preparation. And then we have members, and those are more of our subscription, whether it's, monthly or annual. We have something for almost everybody. So we have 3 tiers there. So yeah, feel free to check it out.
Awesome, man. And before we let you go here, and then we'll wrap this up, 2 really quick questions for you. It could be tax related or non, whatever you think. So anybody that is either getting into being a content creator or is one already, what would be, in your opinion, the number one thing as a do and the number one thing as a don't you would tell them?
Ooh.
For anyone that's getting into like content creation?
Mm-hmm. Or maybe they're already in it and they just walked in your door. And again, it could be don't go buy a Ferrari. It could be, cut your darn hair. It could be anything. So
oh my God. Let me I think that's a good one. Okay. So anyone that's getting started with content creation, if you're getting started, I think the best do is to get inspired. And don't be afraid to mimic that person. So that's the first thing, is inspiration, getting inspired. What you don't want to do, the number one don't, is stop. Consistency is the most important thing. So do, inspire, mimic, copy. Don't stop, because once you stop, it's over with.
Well, that might be the best mic drop as we wrap up one of our episodes. So we really appreciate you joining us, man. I know we took a good chunk of your time here, but we appreciate it, man. And we look forward to chatting with you next time.
No, thanks for having me. This is fun.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So as I always like to wrap up it here and the Teaching Tax Flow podcast, we'll see you back here again next week. Different time, roughly, completely different topic. Have a great week, everybody.
The content provided is for educational purposes only. We encourage you to seek personalized investment advice from your financial professional. For all tax and legal advice, please consult your CPA or attorney. Investment advisory services are offered through Cabin Advisors, a registered investment advisor. Securities are offered through Cabin Securities, a registered broker-dealer. The content of this podcast does not constitute an offer of securities. Offerings can only be made through an offering memorandum, and you should carefully examine the risk factors and other information contained in the memorandum.